And welcome to another episode of the Free Thinkers Podcast, the show that believes in free speech, original thought, desire for truth. Hope everyone's had a great week. We're joined with our good buddy Dale Murphy. Dale, how are you today, sir?
Awesome, Rusty. Another great week. Got kids back in school, and just got in the traffic today, dropping my son off. So that's always fun, and so getting back into the routine. How's things for you?
Man, it's insane that school is already back this early. It seems like New Year's just happened, and I guess when you get older, that happened. The funny thing is at the office. You remember in school were those clocks that they would have over the board? It seemed like that thing moved so slow. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy a schoolhouse clock and put it in my office and just see if that will slow life down a little bit. And I actually did. I bought a schoolhouse clock and it's up there at the office. That thing goes faster than ever, man. So I just remember sitting in school looking at those things thinking, will that thing move any faster to get out of this class?
Yeah, it definitely moved slow during those days for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been brutally hot. I know across the country, it's been brutally hot this week and last week. Yeah. And so typically we get some rain down here, but man, we haven't had rain in a week. And so it's just been on fire. So hopefully we'll get some rain and cool things down. But anyway, that's how we'll go. But we always go back and forth as far as you talk about something, I talk about something. So what's your first story you got?
So kind of like what we talked about last week, man, I wanted to dive in a little bit on, this whole thing with whether it's senators or representatives, just different government officials and how they're, going into the stock market and how they're, making money or doing these trades. I've got a lot of notes here. I'll dive into just, a few things. A couple of the biggest things that have come out just in the last, week or two is that there was a representative, Thomas Carper, who's a sitting congressman, that he's actually shorting the U.S. economy. So basically, he's betting against the U.S. economy. He thinks that if things are going to get worse. So on July 13th, he bought $30,000 worth of these options to be able to bet against the U.S. economy. And this apparently it's not the first time that he's done this before. And this guy, he's a senior member of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. And he also sits on the Finance Committee, where he serves as chairman of the subcommittee on international trade, customs, and global competitiveness. So, and I believe he's out of Delaware. So he's a good friend of Joe Biden's. He has, really sung the praises of Joe Biden about how great he's doing, about how the country's going, in the right direction. And yet he's actually shorting the U.S. economy with his money. And
let me stop you right there real quick, because the country is definitely going in the right direction for him to make money off of his short, correct?
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
so
exactly.
That's the right direction for him and his success, but the rest of the country, no.
Yeah. And then, not to just focus on one side of the aisle, that it just came out, I think it was over the weekend, that there's actually a Republican representative from Tennessee, his name's Mark Green, that he bought $50,000 worth of options betting against the U.S. economy that were set to expire in January of 2024. And then he sold them 25 days later and had just a minor loss. So now that this story has come out, this representative, actually, I just looked and he was responding on Twitter this morning, and he was saying, hey, I've already talked about this. He said, I've got an investment advisor who I've given total control over my investments and told him to make decisions. He's the one that purchased this. As soon as I had found out about what was going on, I had him get rid of or sell the stake in that investment. And so that's why he's saying that 25 days later it was sold. But again, here's just two instances of, a Democrat and a Republican that are both purchasing investments to bet against the U.S. economy for something, and these guys are sitting, like we talked about Thomas Carper, they're sitting on these committees that have all this power and that have all this information. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like it's insider information that they've got, and we can talk more because I've got other examples on both sides of the aisle of different things that are going on here. But I just wanted to get your thought on how are we allowing, because it's against the rule, people can go to jail for insider trading because
Yeah.
if you own a company and all of a sudden you're selling stock or buying stock because before the general public does what's going to happen, you can be thrown in jail. So why is it that these people that sit on these committees and make decisions and give out government contracts and things are able to invest in these companies, and it's no big deal? Like, it's just that's just it's basically a perk of being an elected official, is that you get to have all this inside information and then not have any of the consequences that Joe Public would have. So what do you think about that, Rusty?
Well, let me ask you first. How do you bet against the U.S. economy? Like, what would you buy to, like, short the like the U.S. government or economy, whatever that was?
Yeah, so I think these were kind of like S&P 500 like options. So basically, like, you're betting, like, they're going in and betting that the S&P 500 is going to be going down over a certain amount of time. So like this one with Mark Green, this Tennessee representative, where his options expired in January of next year. So he's basically betting that between now and January of next year that we're going to see a drop in the US economy. So, with the S&P 500 being, because that's showing the 500 largest corporations within the US. So that's why he's making that bet. And so if the S&P 500 falls, he makes money.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I think we have to realize is there's not, and again, I was past president of the Young Republican group back in the day in 2004 or five. Been a Republican all my life. I'm not anymore. I left the party last year, or I should say the party left me. And again, I probably should have left the party a long time ago. I just, kind of had faith maybe things would come back. But I think, to me, it's the right and the left. I've always said they're the same thing. One's just wearing a blue coat, one's wearing a red coat. And just, it's kind of like the Washington General analogy I always bring up. What you got, one side that's doing what they're going to do, and the other side is just acting like they're out there playing. You just have to field a team, so there's 10 people on the court instead of just 5. And I see it as that. I see it that this is an elite club that is put in those positions, and they're going to go for their own self-interest and self-gain at the expense of the people and the constituents that they say they represent. Again, betting against the top 500 companies in that country, being on a committee, being able to make policy and regulations that potentially could lift or raise the tide that lifts all ships. They, by what they're doing in their investment, says, A, that they don't have faith in it. B, they're probably not going to make any changes that go against their investment because they want to have their own personal gain, which we've seen this. We've seen how do you, I think you said it last week, how do you make $180,000 salary and in 4 or 5 years go from your net worth being $500,000 to $30 million? And we've seen it across the board. And to me, I think the whole, that was just the whole injustice of what Martha Stewart actually had to serve time for. These people in Congress are blatantly and openly and brazenly doing this stuff, and they're getting rich and wealthy on it. But here's the thing is they put this little board game in place and kind of, it's a laser pointer. Hey, go do over here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this regulation. Let's go to, and it's one of the things called a duopoly. Duopoly is where you have one thing pitted against the other. I mean, we see it in mainstream media. We've got Fox News versus CNN, right? So you pick a side. We've got Republicans, we have Democrats. You pick a side. We've got, Ford versus Chevy. You pick a side. really, that's really what it is. And so when they set this duopoly up, and you have to, and they almost force you to pick a side. Well, the fight and the attention goes to the side that you're on, not what's going on in the background. And that's where the term bread and circus happened in the Roman days, to where Caesar and everything, they were doing coin clipping. They were devaluing the currency. They were just doing all kind of really, really bad things. But they had, the Colosseum was full. They had events and stuff to distract you with the gladiator fights. And when you went there, they gave you bread and wine and just eat, drink, and be merry, have fun. Don't pay attention to what we're doing back here by literally clipping the coins that you have. They would take, the coin, they'd clip just a little bit out of it, put it in a bucket, you go in your way. They would melt that down. They'd bring it all together, put some other metals in, and now your silver is diluted and tainted and that kind of thing. But it's okay, because we've got coliseums, we've got all this entertainment, we got stuff to pacify us. We're doing the same thing here. As long as we're comfortable, as long as we have power, as long as we have entertainment, as long as we have food, we can go hang out, this, that, and the other. Yeah, we'll complain, we'll tweet, we'll maybe do it in all caps, like I said last time. But we're not going to hold anybody accountable. Oh, yeah, we're really upset that they're doing insider trading. Okay, back to the game, or back to, whatever duopoly rival is going on. And that's what I would say is look at these things in that context of a duopoly, as far as one thing pitted against another. I mean, it's classic, bait and switch on that. So to me, I don't think they're going to change it. I think they're going to talk about changing it. And then it's probably not going to pass. And they're going to talk about changing it again. Then it's not going to pass. That's what they do, because when they get there, their whole goal is for reelection, and nobody really cares about that, because they care about the next big thing, which is, whatever the story, or the whatever you call it of the day is. That's kind of where we're at this point. So to me, I mean, I think it's kind of crazy, but yeah, I mean, you have people on committees that are, that, like you said, know what's going to be voted on, know what's going to be approved. They know where they have the votes for this, that, and the other. And again, everything's driven by money and the lobby groups and all this other stuff. And so there's probably more insider trading than just those people sitting in power. I think the lobbyists are doing probably the same thing too, because they know the votes and stuff. And so when you get enough people in on the take, you get less people really pushing back on it. It's the same thing with Ukraine. That's the biggest money laundering scheme probably that's ever existed. But so many people are in on the take. Like FTX, that guy's starting another thing again. I mean, he stole $200 billion from people. And I'm telling you, I thoroughly believe that was money that was funneled from Ukraine, sent back to the people that vote and all this other stuff. And they did the optics of, perp walking him and that kind of thing, but he never got charged. And now he's free. He's not going to get charged, and free to do what he did again. He was a pawn in their game. He did a specific role, and they had to go through the optics. But now everybody forgets about it, because everybody's talking about Barbie or something of that sort. And so, I mean, honestly, it's the craziest thing. But yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, it's bait and switch. Look over here, argue about this while we're doing the magic behind, the background.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing you talked about with Sam Bankman-Fried, I looked a little bit on that. He had the campaign finance charges dropped. And, he gave millions, and actually to both sides of the aisle. Now, the vast majority of it was to Democrats. It looked like I think there was around 55 or 60 donations, to whether it was individual campaigns or to certain, things that were going behind, like contributions and different things. Like, it looks like about around 50 or so were Democrats, and around 9 or 10 were Republican side. So, but again, all those campaign finance charges that you just talked about have been dropped. And, it's just kind of crazy that all of a sudden that just kind of goes silent. Now, there has been a bipartisan bill that was introduced by Senators Josh Hawley and then Gillibrand to ban stock trading by government legislators. And that was introduced last month. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. If, like you say, if they're just, going, oh yeah, we need to do something about this and that, like they introduce something, but then nothing is ever done. But at least, there are people that are calling out to the forefront. There's, I want to give some credit to a guy on Twitter that I follow. It's Unusual Whales is the name of the Twitter account. And, they list a lot of this information where there's just a lot of unusual information going on and things being passed around. And then they have a lot of, financial data and information that they provide daily. So that's a great account to follow, just to have, more information there in regards to all that. So yeah, just a lot of info there. One other thing that I'll leave you with. So Dianne Feinstein has right now her net worth has increased to $200 million since she's been in the government in the last 30 years. And there's just been all kinds of crazy trading, whether it was with COVID or different things with polling companies around election time, just a lot of weird things going on. And as well, she has ceded power of attorney because of her age. And I think she had a fall over the weekend that she had gone to the hospital for and was there overnight. But she still serves in Congress. So here's someone that's 90 years old, has given power of attorney over all of her things to her daughter, but yet is still sitting. And I don't know if you saw that video where they were taking the votes and her aide was whispering over to her, telling her how to vote. Like it's just crazy how we still allow these people, whether it's on either side of the aisle, these people that can't absolutely function in everyday life, but we're going to allow them to make decisions that, affect America. So just unbelievable, and this is just, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I barely scraped the surface on any of this stuff. There's a lot more stuff that I have here, but I don't want to take up the whole podcast just going over that. But it's just crazy whenever you actually dive a little bit into it, everything that's going on that we just kind of ignore. And like you said, we've got so much other things going on. We're in our phones all day long being entertained by social media, or what's on TV or what's the next big game that we're going to watch, that we just ignore a lot of this stuff that's just crazy that's happening, that's just out in the open, that they're not even really trying to hide. So
no, they're not. And I guess that's the part to where you literally get to the point of, what do you do about it? I mean, is there anything you can do about it? You can contact your local representatives, but are they in on the take? It's like, writing to the thief that's coming to your house and stealing stuff, to say you should make rules that you can't break in and steal stuff. I don't think that that's really going to be super effective as far as when it gets to voting. I mean, we're supposed to have the power to vote. We don't know if that's a reality or not. I mean, legitimately, we don't know how that works out. I mean, there were so many discrepancies, and a lot of things are coming out, and a lot of, just really weird stuff happened in the last election cycle. And so, I mean, here's the thing is, you just have to decide kind of where what you stand up against, how you go about that, and, what to do. And I think that there are probably some good constituents and representatives, but what happens to them if they stand up, like truly stand up? Because to me, you can see when anything comes out, and again, I'll pick on Democrats on this because they're really good on staying on message. But when anything comes out, they're all like parroting the same message. So I'm not sure whether that comes from the DNC headquarters or if it comes from something deeper, like the CIA. I mean, when you literally look it up, CIA had Operation Mockingbird that would send out dispatches every single morning to news organizations and outlets. I mean, you can look this up. I mean, it's well documented. And you still see today news outlets just parroting the exact same thing. Now, I know there's a conglomerate and one parent company owns probably 500, news outlets. So maybe that's something that goes out from that now, but that's what happened back then. And there's no reason to think it's not still happening now with, all the crazy stuff you have in the world. So I mean, we're dealing with, again, there's an elite cabal club, and we're not in it. I can't remember what comedian said that. He goes, there's a big club in the world and you ain't in it. So,
Right.
and
Right.
so, I mean, and I think it's, again, it's discouraging to people that like a rule of law or justice, but like Steve Day said, America is not a nation of law; it's a nation of political will. And you can see people that do have political will, and I mean, look at Fetterman, and look at Feinstein, and look at even on the Republican side, Mitch McConnell. I mean, you look at these people; they are as incompetent as it gets and for fitness to serve. And you look at Joe Biden. Incompetent as it gets, is fitness to serve. He doesn't know where he's at. He turns around and shakes hands with the air.
Right.
And they are willing, number one, their families are willing to let them do that, which is, to me, it's like elder abuse, just without politics, in play. But with politics in play, absolute power absolutely corrupts. And the power, the scarcity mindset and the gang mindset that they have is so, it means so much to them that they will abuse people that are in completely incompetent stages of their life for power, for votes, for the majority to do what they can do in that aspect.
Yeah.
And that's, and to me, that's sad. And I think it shows, and I think there's a correlation with what you said between, you have sitting congressmen or elected representatives. I don't know if they're congressmen or senators, but on both sides of the aisle that are betting against the country. And go back to the founding fathers. I don't know that they would really want people within the representative government that is betting against the success of the country that they fought so hard and risked so much to establish. Right. And I think it kind of brings it back to, again, I haven't watched the news much, but I saw a little thing that came on where the U.S. soccer or the U.S. women's soccer team lost.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of takes us back to where we're really at as a country, because people celebrate the country losing because so much vileness has crept in to a political aspect of even sports that we are rooting against ourselves, as far as in sports and as far as any, patriotism and nationalism and that kind of thing. And it even goes back that we are betting against ourselves when it comes to our elected officials. The country can't survive at that rate when we're cheering for our own demise. And I mean, as far as the flag, over my shoulder, what does that mean to you anymore? I mean, and does it represent the goodness that, came out of that? Or does it represent, is that now the emblem of a corporation that is only represented by an elite at the top and can go and do what they want to do and take advantage of all the people that are below them? I mean, literally, I think that's kind of where we're at this point, because we're in a really, we're in a pickle at that point when it comes to, again, rooting against ourselves and betting against ourselves. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, I mean, I think there's something going on behind the scenes that they're just trying to get us all to hate each other. I mean, because they just want us to destroy ourselves from within, destroy the country from within, and I think I saw a poll, and I don't want to quote the exact numbers because I can't recall exactly what it was, but it was something where back in the days whenever you and I were growing up, it was like 70 to 80% of people under 25 would say that they're proud to be an American. That number has been like cut in 2/3. It's like somewhere around like in the mid to low 20% of people, that age saying that they're proud to be an American. And it's just, it's unreal. I mean, back in the day, I mean, we would never think about somebody not standing up or putting their hand over their heart for the national anthem, or the pledge or whatever it may be. And, it's just it's just unreal, just to see how quickly these things. I mean, just over the last 20 years, I mean, just the downhill decline, just in the patriotism and just the togetherness, ever since 9/11, it seems like, ever since then, it's just like, because we had all grown together, and it was like everybody was on the same team. And it was just like, since that point, man, ever since then, it's just been a steeper and steeper decline down. So just really sad state of affairs. And so, but hopefully we can continue to be that change that we want to see, and just continue to keep holding up our own light to move forward. So what do you got? What's on now that we've spent about 30 minutes on one topic? What do you got?
No, that's good. I think it's a good topic to go to, because I think it kind of correlates right into this. I was going to cover the stuff about the cobalt mines and about the electric vehicle farce and all that other stuff, but I'm not going to do that.
All right.
I've got the notes right here. This week, I'm going to talk about replacement therapy. Let's talk about that. Replacement therapy. This is kind of what I've kind of done this week. What does that mean? I was sitting on the porch Sunday morning listening to this podcast that we'll link at freethinkerspodcast.com. It's talking about finding your true identity in Christ. And it was this guy named Jamie Winship, ex-CIA agent, an incredible story. And it's just really about hearing the voice of God. And he talks about his goal was to, I guess, reduce or disarm conflict in militant organizations. So he'd go and he lived for 26, he and his family lived for 26 years in Muslim areas, and basically went over there and really, helped people find their identity. And he was speaking at a youth camp, and I thought it was so powerful. And I just thought, here's the thing. We have a choice, and I'm guilty of it because I spend so much time. I actually kind of like wrote down what I actually spend my day with. I wake up and I listen to, I'm in the kitchen making coffee or breakfast. I'll listen to the AM update, which it's good, but it's just all the bad stuff that's happened in the day before in politics and that kind of thing. So I listen to that. I was doing that every morning. Then I listen to, Ted Cruz's podcast sometimes. Mm-hmm. And that was like twice a week. That's an hour each. And there was another podcast. I think Austin, Broer was on the show a couple of times ago. I'd listen to them every once in a while. Then at noon, I'd just put Steve Deace on. Good, but it's all, political stuff. And I thought, you know what? For this week, I'm done with doing that. And it was really tough because it's almost like gossip. You just want to get in there and hear it. And I'm passionate about, political debates and that kind of thing. Yep. But I thought, okay, I'm going to replace it this week. I'm going to replace it with, encouragement or Craig Rochelle's of Life Church is a pastor I listen to kind of on a weekly basis, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back and listen to more of that. This Jamie, Winship is a 4-part series. So I'm going to listen to that. And so this week I've replaced it. I've replaced negative with positive. I've replaced, what's down with what's up. And I'm telling you, it makes such a difference in your life. And so kind of, and one of the things it was weird because I was listening to this and it's like, okay, how much time do I give to Jesus? How much time do I give to Joe? Talking about Joe Biden, right. Listen to that. How much time do I put truth in my life, or how much time do I care about Trump in my life? Yeah. How much time do I want clarity in my life, or how much time do I care about corruption in other people's lives? Mm. And so like we talked about with the whole corruption and the insider trading, what can you do about it? Like literally. Yeah. If you know for a fact that all this stuff is true, it's true. What can you do about it? And to all the people that have sent me texts this week with political this, that, I haven't responded. This is why, because I've ignored it. Yeah, I have. I get probably 50 texts probably since Sunday of people sending this, that, and the other. And I just said, a couple of people, I said, I'll look at this next week because I'm on a fast this week from it. Right. And it's just been so good because like in the morning I'll wake up and I'll, start my day with something different than how the world sucks and how evil and vile, what they do. And the other night I was laying in bed and I turned the TV on and I was just, for some reason, I don't understand how I got into Syria because I was just looking something up, but I typed in like Damascus, Syria. And there were these two people that were tourists. And so they are going back into Syria. I think I looked it up. I was curious. I think I saw something about Assad, and I was curious about Assad, who's the president of Syria, who is not convicted, but blamed by the U.S. government for committing war crimes and stuff, which I'm not sure actually happened. I think it was more of a kind of a financial embargo to try to get oil or something. There was some other means of the story.
Yeah.
But anyways, these two people were in Lebanon, and then they traveled to Damascus, Syria, which was a war zone and all that other stuff. And so it was a 4-part series, and I just got like hooked on this because it was so cool to see how they went into there. And they're like, this is probably some of the most nice and kind people we've ever been around. Ever. I mean, and on the video, they were just welcoming to see. I mean, and the one lady had blonde hair, so it's not like she blended in.
Right.
And so the place it was nice. The food was great. The people would come up and give them free stuff in the market. And I got to thinking last summer when I went out to Portland, Oregon, I had a shoot out there and I was downtown Portland. I was like, this may not be a good idea because what I've seen on the news.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the same thing, what they've seen on the news as far as how dangerous Syria was and Damascus and all this other stuff. And they're like, we have never been to a place with more love and more kindness and more welcoming spirit. And just, we can walk around. The girl would just go by herself, to places and felt completely safe. And I thought, there's so much goodness in the world. There really is. But if we focus on the bad. I mean, think about this. If you make a speech, let's say, I mean, you've done public speaking.
Right.
So you make a speech, 10 people come up and say, Dell, you did a great job, man. That was a great speech. And then one guy comes up and says, man, that sucked, man. I don't know why you stuttered or did that.
Right.
What would you remember?
You're going to remember the one.
The one.
Yeah.
The one. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be a person without a big title, 10 people with great titles come up. And I think that's how we do it in what we do too, because if they can put that in there, I mean, we see, shots meaning like video clips of, people getting beat and this, that, and the other. And you have to put that in context. How many clips have you seen of that happen? Let's just say maybe there's 5 that you've seen. Out of a country of 330 million people, 5 are going to make your judgment based on this country and where it's at.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can walk through Syria and you have the most welcoming, the most loving, the most embracing people and the culture that just welcomes you, but you're told that's dangerous, you shouldn't go there. It's a red flag tourist thing by the U.S. Department of State. They say it's a red flag. You shouldn't go. It's dangerous. And they're showing this, and it's like, what? Yeah. This is crazy. I guarantee you there's places that you wouldn't want to go in the United States, but Damascus, Syria is a lot better. And so, like, I've been in the Gaza Strip. I've been all over the world. And the one place that I've been that I think I was most fearful in my life was the state fair over in Tampa. Because I'm not kidding. It was a night. We were all there, and all these cops kept coming up to us to say, "You guys need to go. You guys need to go now." And we're like, "Why?" They said it's like all these gangs are supposed to meet here, and we're shutting the whole thing down. And I'm like, "All right," because you're not supposed to take a gun in the state fair. So I'm like, "Okay, we're going because I don't want to be here." Like, but here's the thing: is you've got in that podcast it talks about is knowing your identity. And going back to that is people within gangs, they get their identity from the gang. They don't get their identity from God or from, what they know about themselves. They get their identity because they're trying to fit in and they're broken and they're lost and they accept and embrace the labels that the world puts on them and how they want to live up to because they probably don't have family. They probably, are looking for that acceptance. Right. And someone's going to use and abuse that to try to give them that identity, and they're going to ultimately lose, and they're going to, lose out on a lot. And so to me, that's what I've tried to do this week. And it was interesting because yesterday, on the Bible app, the verse of the day came up and it was Philippians 4:8. And it said, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And I think it was it just kind of hit because it's like, you know what? We get so caught up in things not being right. Again, what are we going to do about people that are insider trading and corrupt and that kind of thing? And if there's anything we can actually do to make a change, I'm all for it. Like, I'm not saying to sit back and be a pacifist and just let people take advantage. No, I mean, when COVID was going on, I fought back harder than anything else on that and lost friends over that. And, it was a tough time, but that was something worth fighting for because that's something we could do. We could educate our families. We could, stand up. We can go to school board meetings. We can, just make our voice heard. But I think it comes to the point to where if we sit back, we've got this duopoly right now between Trump and DeSantis. That's what that's what they're putting the focus on. And it's a personality battle. It's not a battle about policy.
Yeah.
And then there's on the other side, whatever's happening with Joe and all this other nonsense. I mean, it is what it is. That's not going to change my life. And to me, and I'll turn it over to you in a minute, but to me, if we can put stuff in that fuels us so that we can in turn let stuff out, that we can help build each other up, that's the flow that we're supposed to go with. And I think so many times all of us are the Dead Sea. Les Brown said, and I think I've mentioned this before, that the only body of water that has no life in it is the Dead Sea. It has an inlet, but it doesn't have an outlet.
Yeah.
And I think so many times we're isolated and listening to negativity, and we're filling up with negativity, and we have no outlet. And the only time there is an outlet is going to be the outlet of negativity. Mm-hmm. So I think if we let some things good, like dwell on those things, think about the good things, look for the good things. Sometimes we have to look for them because we're so used to, and it's easy to see the negative, to complain. Like I said, it's easier to be a critic than a creator. Is from what I do, it's hard because we create videos, we create websites, we create designs. We're a creator. We put our heart and soul into that. And you show that to somebody that you spend hours or days on, and they, nitpick something like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's definitely easier to be a critic than a creator. But we are created by the creator to be creative and to create. And I think we can, there's a guy listening to Erwin McManus. He said, birds build nests, bees make hives, humans build the future. And I think that's the difference between what we can do as humans and what every other created species can do. We get to build and imagine something and make that a reality. And so if we dwell on that, if we dwell on the good, if we dwell on what we can do, and if we put into ourselves, whether it's positive or learning or anything like that, what can you do to make you grow and to be able to grow in a capacity to help encourage other people to be better and to not dwell on that negativity? That's, to me, kind of what I've tried to do this week, is replacement therapy, to replace what I put in myself negative and replace it with positive.
Yeah, no, that's definitely awesome. We've talked about that, looking at the whole, like, how to win friends and influence people, or, whatever it may be, and putting things into your life that are uplifting, because things on the news and things in the media, whatever it may be, it's fear sells, man. Fear is what is going to get the eyeballs. That's what's going to, draw the people in, is going to, push people apart. That's basically what they're doing, is they're just selling fear, and people are drawn to that. And then it's just like they can't get enough. They want more and more. And, like we've talked about, whether it's the elderly people sitting there watching Fox News and, seeing the same story 14 times, but they're still sitting there, they know what sells. And so we've got to focus on those good things. Like I talked about maybe 2 or 3 podcasts ago, where I talked about, my dad having the gratitude journal. It should be part of our daily routine, where we wake up and we're thankful, where we don't start our day and automatically go and grab the phone or turn on the news, and scroll through and see what's going on, and then just get basically walk into a depression den because of the things that are going on in the world, and that affects your day. And so it's like, if we can start our day with gratitude, if we can start our day, filling our lives with, with those good things, I think it'll make a huge difference in just the way that we see life and the way that we interact with others. I think it could really, really change our society if more people would say, you know what, I'm not going to allow these outside circumstances that I can't control, that those aren't going to control me. They're not going to control my attitude and the direction that I'm going to go with my life. I'm going to be thankful. I'm happy to be here, happy to be alive, happy to have an opportunity, to love friends and family and, make a difference. And so that's what we just every day, you've got to make that conscious effort, because it's so easy to just grab that phone and sit there and scroll and, just go down the spiral of depression. But we just got to make that conscious effort of making the choice of, wanting to put those good things into our heart and into our minds.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is there's not going to be an easy day, and we're going through rough times. But, my friend John Gordon wrote a book called The Coffee Bean, and he said, let's compare three things. You're either an egg, you're a carrot, or you're a coffee bean. When you're put in hot boiling water and you're an egg, you become hard and you tense up. When you're a carrot and you are put in boiling water, you go soft and you disintegrate. But when you're a coffee bean, you're put in boiling water, you change the environment and you make a better aroma. And I think that's so true, because sometimes when we're, and obviously I'm not saying this as someone that has it remotely all together. It's something we're all working on. We're all on a journey to try to do this, but it's hard to be on that journey when you're not walking on a path, because sometimes, when you're just walking out through the wilderness and, going through stickers and that kind of thing. And I was thinking about it the other morning too, as far as I saw this thing on Twitter weeks ago, and it said, describe yourself in 3 words. And I remember I was in Paducah, Kentucky on an airplane, and I saw that, and I turned my phone off and I thought, I don't know how I would do that. I don't know how I would do that. And the first thing I started thinking about is how other people would describe me in 3 words.
Yeah. And
then it hit me that, and I think this goes back to this podcast, which we'll link on our website, to finding your true identity in Christ rather than just what the world puts on. And I thought, man, that's so crazy, because I think we're so conditioned to accept the labels that everyone else puts on us and the things that we want to live up to, that we don't know what our true identity is, that we can stand firm within and know and grow from. And the visual image came to my mind of like me walking around wearing a Velcro suit, and you've got people with these like balls with words on them that you're just throwing them at them and they're sticking.
Yeah.
And I just thought, when this pastor, when he started talking about this ex-CIA agent, like when you truly know that, you can stand in the criticism, you can stand and just be joyful, be happy, and your mind is focused on something different because you know who you are in there. And I just thought about ripping, that Velcro suit off and getting a hat with your true identity monogram that you put on your head, and you wear it proudly because this is who I am. You can't throw anything and it's not going to stick. And I think that, to build yourself up on a daily basis to do that, but know your identity within the kingdom, your kingdom identity. And I'll go over a little bit more. I'll send you the podcast. Actually, it'd be neat to kind of go over that, because I made a ton of notes. I was just sitting out there making notes. I love to do that. And that's one of the things I've done in the mornings too. I built this little table downstairs, and it's like in the mornings I get up and I sit down there and I either have my coffee or breakfast and just say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour. I get my first 2 hours of the day. Like, that's for me. The rest I'll sell. But for me, I've got to take, and like you said, to get up with an attitude of gratitude. And if you your most productive time, your most creative time is in the morning. And that's what one of these mindset experts said, is the last thing you want to do, the first thing in the morning, is to check your email, because sometimes those can be negative.
Right.
And the frequency that you have within, your mind can change. And that's when you're talking about watching Fox News. There's places I walk into that the news is on and I get upset. Like to have it on drives me crazy. Yeah. I can't stand it. I can't tell you the last time I've just sat there and watched the news. I'll put in my earbuds. I can't stand it. I can't, because all it is fear. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And through that, they loop you in. And that's why, as far as like some of these podcasts, we'll probably never be in the top 500 podcasts, because we're not, fear-based. We're not, extravagant on that. I mean, we have a balance. Obviously, there's things that we want to bring up, but there's also, if you want to talk about politics, if you want to trash people, if you want to do all this other stuff, there's a lot of places you can go to do that. It's not going to be here, yeah. But because it doesn't make me feel good to do it, I know it doesn't make you feel good to do it. And I mean, we have to have that balance. There's a lot of things that, we'll call it out. We'll fight against that if it's stuff that really affects people in our lives and that kind of thing. But man, just to dwell on that, dwell on what's good, dwell on what's right, dwell on what's, worthy of edification of yourself, that you can be stronger to go do that. I mean, even when it talks about money, the Bible talks about money. It says you are made rich so you can give to every good and perfect work. That's why we're made rich. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the people like you're talking about before, it's just like a scarcity mentality. I'm going to get, and there's no outlet. So it's dead. At the end of the day, look at Dianne Feinstein now. Look at Mitch McConnell now. Look at Joe Biden now. All the money they've either embezzled or corruptly stole. I mean, what's that going to do for their life? Right. It's going to be over soon. It's like a vapor. And where does that leave them? I mean, literally, they have to be sitting there thinking, this can't buy me any more time. Yeah. And it sure can't buy me any more health. Look at Steve Jobs. Exactly. I mean, it's crazy. But I don't know. I just think that this week, I didn't want to go over the electric cobalt thing, even though that's crazy. But, I just thought it's so good. And again, the last thing, and then I'll turn it to you, but the music we listen to is so important. And like this week, I was at church and there was a song they played and I'm like, man, that sounds, and it wasn't, but I said, that sounds like a Need to Breathe song. Need to Breathe. They are just phenomenal. And so what I've started doing and, listen to their songs. I've never really looked and read the lyrics, but I've got Spotify and you can see the lyrics. Yeah. Absolutely incredible, absolutely powerful. And there's a different energy, there's a different spirit, there's a different frequency and that kind of music versus some of the other kind of music that you can listen to. And so I would just encourage everybody to do that. Is just, take a week. I'm not saying do it like forever, but just take a week or at least start with a day or an afternoon or whatever you can do and see the difference it makes when you put good stuff in and what you get out. I mean, it's kind of like, just for me on the carnivore, what I put in my body affects how I feel and act and react. What I put in my mind affects how I feel and react and perform. And also, it also affects other people too, because it's a cascading effect, because you can encourage other people. You can, just be better all around. And so this isn't like self-help, self-talk or whatever like that. It's literally fueling yourself with the good instead of fueling yourself with the bad and the stuff you want to dwell on that just makes your life worse. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if you know all the information about this 4D chess that Trump's playing? Who cares? There's literally a guy in my neighborhood who does math all day, and he does these things on Telegram, thinks JFK Jr.'s coming back. This guy's brilliant. This guy's seriously, the guy's brilliant. And when he talks to me sometimes, I'm like, what a waste. Yeah. Like literally, what a waste of his he's not a waste of a person. It's a waste of his time, because he could be doing something. And I asked him, I said, okay, I think the last time I was outside the neighborhood and he has a dog and I've got dogs and we sat there and talked and I said, okay, so if you know all this stuff, what does that do? Oh, well, it just gives us the power to just know that. I'm like, all right, okay. And then what happens? Because I think he was talking about the whole child sex trafficking. I said, there's a place down the road that deals with trafficked children. Why don't you go down there and serve? Why don't you do something instead of just learn about this stuff? Because who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Unless you're going to sit there and physically help and be with somebody, or financially donate, or strategically help them accomplish a mission, and you just know that knowledge and sitting at your house like, okay, cool, I know this now. That does nothing.
Yeah.
That does nothing. It wastes your life. That's what it does.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's absolutely bizarre. And again, I've been there. I'm not saying that he's the kook. I've been there. I wanted to know as much information about this stuff as possible. But then when you look at reality and you put it in perspective, changes just a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good, man. I mean, I'll just kind of wrap it up on my side, just responding to that. One of the things that I read a lot of books, and there was one book I was reading where, the guy in there said, man, you can read all the books in the world and have all the knowledge in the world, but what does it matter if you read 1,000,000 books and you don't apply anything that you're reading? He's like, I'd rather you read 2 pages of a book and it change your life rather than you read 1,000,000 books and have all this knowledge and be able to go, oh, I've read 7 books a week. What does it matter if all I'm doing is taking in all the knowledge and everything? Like we've talked about, being that Dead Sea, of just, I'm intake. But if there's nothing coming out and outflowing and helping to affect others and helping to affect your own life, it would change. What does it matter if you're intaking all this stuff? Even if it's good stuff, even if it's great, awesome stuff, even if it like the Bible talks about, what good does it do you if you read the word and don't do what it says? It says it's like looking in the mirror and then walking away and not knowing what you look like. It doesn't matter if you read the word, and if you're a scholar, if you don't practice and put what it says into practice, then it means nothing. So, I think that's what we need to take away from today and in our lives, is just make a difference and just have action. I think it's just a call to action, instead of, so many times we want to be self-help and like just intake and information. Okay, that's great, and we should definitely have as much knowledge and information as we can. But at the same time, then once you have something and God has given you the resources, you've got to now act. It's not just about taking in. So hopefully people can take that away from this week and, go out and make a change, not only in their lives, but also in those around them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that Craig Rochelle said is intention does not equal action. You actually have to do something to do that. So I think exactly what you said. And to me, you're exactly right. You can read 2 pages of a book and it could change your life, versus 1,000,000 and just getting through the motions of what it is. And so there, as far as I've got in my desk here, I've got these highlighters and I highlight everything. I mean, when I go through, I highlight everything or take notes. And back in the day, I used to, this is way before there was a pastor I used to listen to, and they would actually have transcripts. And so I'd print them out and take them to the sauna at the gym and sit there and read them and highlight that kind of stuff. And it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I can't tell you the difference. And again, I've been guilty, as probably more guilty than most people that watch this, as far as just the consumption of what knowledge, but it turns out to be, negative. And so to me, I like being well educated and well versed on a variety of topics. I've always been interested in that, but you can't do it past what you can take yourself into, and you have to make sure that you're always going on a trajectory of building yourself up so you can build other people up. And I think that's certainly a mentality that we can have, because there's just so much out there. There's so much we can consume. We have so many choices. We have more choices than ever and more platforms than ever. And like you said, sitting there on your phone, and your phone will give you a report how much time you looked at it on a weekly basis.
Right.
And sometimes that number is like, oh my gosh, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And so, I've been off of social media this week. I've been off a podcast this week. As far as the political, and I've got more work done. My life's better for it. Again, I put good music on in the background, and you build yourself up, and you have the confidence, and you have the, the faith and the positivity to move forward. So I think, yeah, like I said, it doesn't have to be this big stretch that you have to do. Just give it a shot just for a little bit and see how that will change, because just a little bit of positivity will definitely change your life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I think this was definitely good. Something to give everyone something to think about, and like we talk about, something that's actionable. So hopefully people will take that and will move forward and have a great week with it.
Yep. So we'll end with that. I'm going to read this again. This is Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things, what you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Till next time, we love y'all. Have a good one.